I'm Jono Buchanan. In this video within Logic Pro, we're going to be looking at 3 automation tricks. Firstly, let's open up this track and find out what automation we already have within this project. If I press the A button to launch automation, we'll see that there is automation already recorded for the 2 synthesizers in this track. So firstly, you can see that the lines that we've created within this project already are all very linear. They're all straight lines, in other words. If I want to create some curves to create a slightly more finessed response to the way that the filter opens on, for example, this second sequence line, then what I can do is to come into the toolbar and find Automation Curve Tool. If I select this, what you'll now see is that the icon for the pointer is changed. And what this now allows me to do is to pull the curves around for this to create sort of envelopes that aren't as linear. Now, obviously I can pull them in this direction, or I can pull them straight upwards, or you can see that I can create S-curves as well simply by dragging left and right. So what this allows me to do is to create a really finessed shape to the automation lines that I want to create. And of course, what that means is that in a line like this, effectively the filter will open more slowly before reaching the same point, whereas that way we'll get a brighter curve happening within this line this way round. So that's how we work with curves. The next thing to say is that generally speaking, we're either in read mode or we're looking to introduce automation parameters. Now, Latch mode allows you to record a new line of automation data simply by opening the interface for the effect or the instrument that you're working with and moving the parameter of your choice to introduce that. But when you work with Latch mode, the final point will rest at wherever you leave it. In other words, if you create a filter envelope which maybe reaches the top, when you press stop, the final point will be back up at the top. What if you want to create a little offset to a range of individual nodes, but to have the automation return to an existing point after you press stop? Well, that's touch mode. What I'm going to do is to select touch from my options, my automation options here, and I'm going to open up the ES2, which is the instrument that's playing back this sequence. And what I want to do, I can actually resize this window so we can see this happening alongside the automation data, is what I want to do is to create a change to the filter cutoff, but just for this 3rd iteration of the shape that I've created. So what I'm going to do is to double click above the line here at the top of the first region, but underneath the cycle length. And what that's going to do is to start playback from this point. And then what I'm going to do is to simply create an offset to the filter cutoff for this 3rd iteration. And when I stop recording, we should see that the automation data jumps back to this point, which is the next one that it will read. Let's have a look at how that works. So now I'm engaging that parameter. And the moment I stop, we haven't wiped out this automation line. This one's going to remain exactly as it is. In Latch mode, what we would find is that our last point here remained and it would stay at this point. So touch mode's extremely useful for simply touching an individual parameter for a length of time. The moment you let go, the original setting before it will be returned to. It's also a really very useful way of automating volume, particularly when you're working with vocals. If you have one line that suddenly feels like it needs a bit of a push, you can give that push, and then the moment you let go, the vocal level will return to where you had it set before. Now, the last thing to look at within this video is what happens if you create an automation line that you don't want at all. What we can do is return to read mode for a second just to protect the automation that we've got, and then we can have a look in the mix window. Now up here we've got a range of parameters or a range of options that relate to automation. We can create automation within this drop down here, but you'll see there's a dedicated one here for delete, and the options are very useful here. And in particular, what we can do is to delete the visible automation on the selected track. Now let's suppose on this track, in addition to this filter information, I also had a volume fade. Let's suppose I wanted to keep the volume fade but get rid of the cutoff frequency information that I'd got rid of. This would be a really good choice. It just gets rid of the parameter that is currently selected. So when I let go on this option, I'm going to lose all of my filter information, but any other parameter that I had automated would remain. Also within that option, there's an opportunity to get rid of all automation on the current selected track. So if you've made some errors or you're suddenly not really feeling the automation that you've recorded and you want to start again, no problem. And of course, if you inadvertently do that, Command and Z, undo, will get you back to where you started. So within this video, we've seen three things. We've explored in reverse order how to get rid of automation data altogether by using the delete options, and that delete the currently visible automation is a really useful parameter. We've looked at touch mode, which allows us to draw a little bit of automation data somewhere in the track without interrupting the automation data on either side. And the third thing that we've done is to look at how to introduce curves into our automation so that rather than having just straight linear automation nodes, we can actually sort of bend them around and create slightly more finessed choices.